All right, we're here on to chapter 7. All right, so this is about leads, buyers, and tenants. Okay, but the biggest point I want to reach out to this, whether you're doing this for long-term or temporary, but I want you to get to a habit of categorizing the number of the person that is contacting you, right? Whether you save them as Paul, for instance, with open brackets, and you write there Santon buyer, close bracket, but you want to make habit so you can categorize people how they initially came in, okay? And this is just not to necessarily box them, but the point is that you want to always have and understand how you initially got into contact with someone so you could potentially serve them the same way in the future or with something else, okay? Now, of course, I always get into the habit of sending people messages, you know, at this point I've got over 11,000 contacts on my phone, but, you know, every month I'll allocate a particular week and I'll reach out to certain people using a particular template, either to get properties that I can either sell or rent from them if they're landlords, or you know, ignite their interest in either leasing or buying if they had came to me for that in the beginning, right? But I always want to make a habit of you know, monthly reaching out to a category of people, and I will know that by saving them in a particular way. Because if I save Santon buyer, I can literally type that on my WhatsApp at the top, Santon buyer, and I'll have a list of all those people who came in to buy in Santon, and I can blast them with one particular, you know, message, all of them, right? I guarantee you 2 or 3 of those people will respond positively and say, actually, you know what, I'm actually looking to buy again, or I bought at that time, but I am looking to buy again right now, or I'm looking to sell what I bought a couple of years ago when I reached out to you, or that buy, the purchase I made with you, look, I actually want to sell right now, or whatever the case may be, but you're bound to get business from some of those people, because again, in my industry, if you are in my position with having so much contacts, you know, there's a lot of activity that's going on with those people that you do not know now because you haven't reached out, but you will know once you do reach out. My point is that you're in the business of contacting and campaigning and marketing for business, and texting people and texting the leads that you have and keep on your phone will help you generate that business without you having to go and cold call new people. That's where I am right now. Again, that's why I say to you that I get business now on a referral basis. Luckily for me, you know, I get people who message me because they know me from Yay, or I've got renewals of rentals, or I've got people I've helped sell their property, or we just sold the property on auction today, right? Which for much more higher price than we listed it for. My point is that even that business I got because I was referred by a landlord of mine that I'd served for the past couple of years, right? But my point is that you need to be able to categorize your contacts so you know exactly how you had met them, so you could then use that information to serve them in the future again in the same way or better. Okay, right, so the pipeline, of course, everyone should know what a pipeline is, but you want to make sure you fill your pipeline. Okay, you want to fill up your pipeline, categorize your people, fill them up on your phone, save their numbers, do not leave anyone unturned, okay? You want to keep people's numbers, even if they don't keep yours, but keep theirs. I have a template on my phone right now. When I get inquiries that are related to a listing that I have that may be owned by one of my agents, but I'm on it, I've got my own list, my own template that I send to them, even though I won't continue conversation or communication at that point about that property, but I'll send them a message so that they know who I am, and I'll save their number and ask that they save mine too. For me, that contact is future money for me, or it's a future contract. I've ultimately gained a contact which I can turn into a contract, and I can turn that contract into revenue, right? And I can only do that if I understand the people and I know the people that I have on my phone, and I categorize them so I know again how I can serve them in the future in the same way or better. Right, now the golden 5-minute rule just really means when you get someone who contacts you about anything, right? If they contact you about anything, in the first 5 minutes, you contact them back. Okay, you could call them, drop them a text. Again, in my position, because most of my listings now, I've appointed to the agents who work for me that are in residential. But when I get an inquiry, I contact immediately, and I send that contact to the relevant agent, so that that person is never unattended to. Right? At this point, the attention span being so short, the moment you don't respond, someone else will. And by the time you do, that person would have moved along with the person who was speedy enough to contact them as soon as they inquired. Okay, so serious clients versus casual browsers. So, you know, the only way you know who's serious or not is by probing and asking the right questions and handling objections. If you cannot do that, you'll never know who's serious and who isn't. Okay, so go back to the sales training, right? Master that, and you understand exactly how to differentiate between someone who's serious and who's a casual browser. But just keep in mind that the only way you'll know is to understand that what you need to ask enough to know if this person is serious or not. But I'll leave that to a bit more intimate conversation between you and I, because people are different and they can come to you differently, but that's why I'm here. All right, so message me and I'll help you out. All right, then you move on to the next. So targeted prospect qualification. Now, when it comes to tenant qualification and buyer qualification, okay, I'll begin with those two. The only way you can do that is by asking questions, and I'll add this, by asking hard questions, okay? So some of the agents that come and refer to me or talk to me and ask for some advice and come with me with certain situations, I always show them how to ask hard questions, okay? Like asking someone, look, are you going to be buying cash or bond? Some people are afraid to ask someone because they might feel that it's evasive to ask someone how they're going to make a purchase, but I do it all the time. You need to get into a habit of it, doing it now. But really, you only get into a habit of it when you get to a point where you're confident to handle people's objections, because someone can ask you and you're only afraid to ask because you're afraid of what they're going to say thereafter. Okay, if I can ask you, hey man, so you're going to buy cash or bond on an 80 million rand property, I expect you to answer me. Okay, and I ask you until you answer me. If you don't answer me, we're not doing business, because it means that if you don't answer me now, you're never going to answer me in the future anyway, right? But you need to be able to get to a point where you're confident enough to ask the hard questions, because that's going to enable you to know whether this person is qualified to do business with or qualified to either buy or lease out this property or not, right? And you need to know that at the beginning, because you want to protect your landlord. You don't want to bring just anyone who's paying around on Property 24 saying, I want to see this 40 million rand property, and they come to you in a scooter and flip-flops, and which is nothing wrong with that. The people who will buy ultimately are the ones who come in scooters and flip-flops. But my point is that you also want to make sure that you can pre-qualify someone before you bring someone who isn't really qualified to buy a property of high magnitude. I'll give you a small example. The guy who bought the 154 million rand property from me came to auction on auction day, called the previous day, came on auction day wearing flip-flops, shorts, a shirt and a cap like this, all right? He's the last person you would have thought conventionally that has 150 to 200 million rand to buy a property. And we found out this guy's got a 1.5 billion rand portfolio in property, and he does absolutely well. Right? And the only way we would have known that, or we could have known in the beginning, even if he hadn't come to the auction, was asking him the right questions and qualifying him. People who are qualified will really tell you that they're qualified. Okay? They'll close you if you're not able to close them or handle the objection. So keep that in mind. Okay? Ask the right questions, but go back to the sales and objections course. That's going to give you the confidence to ask the right questions, and you'll come to me and I'll tell you what those questions are. But by that time, you'll probably already know exactly what the right questions to ask are, because you would have become proficient in handling objections and closing transactions. Okay, so professional budgeting. Look, I'll leave that to the PDF you'll have. I won't speak on it because I do not like the word budget. Budget does not exist in our line of business. Keep that in mind. All right, so let's just move on to the next slide. So client motivation and shortlist. Really the same as you qualifying someone to understand where you put them or where you categorize them enough to know what they would buy from you. Okay, every buyer is a buyer. Treat people like they buy. Treat people like they are a buyer, and they will buy from you. Right. So just keep in mind that you need to be able to just categorize people, but make sure that you still treat them like they would buy for you, so that they do buy from you, but you want to be able to know what you're going to sell them by qualifying them. Okay, so booking a viewing properly, it's pretty basic. It's always going to be back to the first slide, which really spoke on presentation and how you carry yourself within the business. Okay, eliminating viewing and no-shows. Okay, all right, so that is always done by pre-asking the questions before the person comes to the appointment. Now, the one question you can take right now, if you forget everything else, is ask the person this. If you've set up a viewing and someone wants to come buy a property, it's 4 million rand, and they've said, hey, look, I want to come tomorrow, and you want to serve them, you've pre-qualified them, they want to come, you confirm the viewing, you call your seller, which is very important. And now, before the next day comes, you want to ask them, hey, look, is there any reason why you wouldn't make it tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Okay? You ask them that question, and you ask that question because you want to preempt any objection that they might tell you tomorrow. 1 p.m. hits tomorrow, they tell you, hey, I'm stuck in traffic, or I'm coming from this, but whatever they tell you at that moment will help you determine whether should you keep the appointment at 2 p.m. or is there a chance that they might not make it. And of course, you'll probe a bit more and understand if you really need to move it an hour after or before so that you actually make the viewing, because your next job is to handle any objections that they have when you view, and you need to get that to move closer to the sale. All right? I'll leave also that for the PDF. Post-viewing conversation, again, is simple. It's all handling objections and closing. You want to get to a point where you handle whatever objection they may have after they have viewed your property. And I want to leave you with this particular quote. Outstanding property practitioners do not sell physical spaces. They match pre-qualified criteria to verify client motivations. Lead qualification is not a barrier to the deal. It is the foundation of transactional security. Let's move on to the next slide.